We want to welcome everyone to the Utah Board of Water Resources on this fine March day, 18th, 2026. I'm glad to have you here. So let's introduce the board members that are here. If you would, I'm Mike Davis. I'm the chair of the board and over the Provo River drainage.
I'm Dana Van Horn over the Upper Colorado River District.
Juliette Tennert representing Salt Lake and Tooele counties.
William Merkley with the Green River District.
Blaine Ibsen over the Sevier River.
Spencer Jones over the Lower Colorado River Basin.
Tim Hawks over the Weber River.
Dale Bexton with Bear River.
Brian Steed, Great Salt Lake.
Okay.
Thank you. Joel Williams, Director at Water Resources in the room. We've got Paul Gedge back at the Capitol. We've got Carmen in the room. We have Ethan Stayner, Ben Marett, Marisa Egbert, Shannon Clow, Sarah Schechter, Ani Baynard, Shalane DiBernardi, Eric Dixon. Anybody I'm missing in the room? Okay, that's all of our water resources staff.
Great, and we love our staff. They do an awesome job. So first thing on the agenda we have, I'm going to call it the NRCS report. It's supposed to be the NRCS snow report. Jordan.
There we go. Am I live? Does that sound right? Okay. Yeah. All right. Make sure that I'm projecting. All right. Good afternoon. I'll try not to be too repetitive with the information I presented this morning. There is some new content here. There are some duplicative slides, so I'll be mixing in a little bit of both. My name is Jordan Clayton. I'm the supervisor of the Utah Snow Survey with the NRCS. I'm going to provide a snowpack and water supply update as it is. This is a carryover from this morning. This is showing the major basins in the state and how they are faring in terms of percent of normal snowpack. This is in regards to the water content of that snowpack. And obviously these red colors are the worst of those bins, which is where we have less than 50% of normal snowpack conditions. Shown here are both the basins and the individual snowtell sites across the state of Utah. So the basins range from about 16% to a little over 82% if we count the raft in Utah. If we combine all those data into one curve, we get the statewide snow water equivalent curve that's shown here. You can see it's dipping below the previous range of observations, so we are in uncharted territory. 57% of normal doesn't really capture that, but 0th percentile does. We have not seen the range of observations hit this low before. And I mentioned this at length this morning, and I'll just hit it again this morning, or excuse me, this afternoon. We have very likely already hit our snowpack peak for the year at 8.4 inches of water equivalent, which is a little less than 2 inches below the previous record. So that's a really shocking difference compared to the previous low, which was pretty much shared with 2015 and 2018. It's possible that we would get a phenomenal April and this would be a false peak, but the weather forecast doesn't seem to support that. I did show this morning. Our percentiles for our snowtell sites indicate that most of the state's snowtell sites are in the bottom 15% of observations. It's not surprising given that we're breaking records left and right. And what that's done to our snowpack is it's made it dense very early for this time of year, which means that, of course, it's going to be easy to generate runoff from that snowpack. And in many cases, the snowpack, the snow melt is already steadfastly happening. This is a carryover from this morning, looking at the reservoirs around the state. The current water year, the 2026 line is kind of in the middle on the left side there. And as you can see, we've essentially used up the water that we benefited from over those really great snowpack seasons 23 and 24. And we're into now kind of marginal or average, I should say, not marginal, reservoir conditions, but a little bit better than we saw in 2022 and the beginning of 2023. There are certain areas of the state that have been hit a little bit harder since last year, which is shown by these different bar graphs on the bottom. It shows last year in the purple and this year in the green for each of these different regions around the state. And we see for the upper severe and the Weber Ogden in particular that there's pretty big drops. So this has been a universal problem, but hit some areas a little bit more than others. The stream flow forecasts from the NRCS, not surprisingly, are grim. And so what's shown here are the 50th exceedance probability forecasts, most of which are below the 50th percentile, 50% of average is what's shown here. And as I'll talk about on the next slide, I actually have been encouraging water managers to be paying more attention to the bottom end of that probability distribution than I normally would. I'll talk more about that in just a second. But let me get into a little bit of the rationale for why I'm looking at this year's distribution of forecasts and trying to highlight that this is a little bit more unusual. Our relational forecasting approach looks for analog years, and we just don't have a good analog year for this year. We have decent snowpack only at the highest elevations in our watersheds, and we had this anomalously wet, actually, October, which is driving up the expectations in our runoff modeling. Our forecasters have taken that into account to a certain extent. They've generated models just based only on SWE, snow water equivalent, and also only considering recent precipitation. There has been some consideration of that. But that being said, and I mentioned this also this morning, I actually recommend that water users consider the 70th exceedance probability forecast instead of the 50th this year as the most likely outcome. And somebody suggested to me in the crowd after my talk this morning that maybe that was already, again, too optimistic. But let's stay on the 70th and ride that level for now. These are the forecast points shown by percentile. Again, pretty much the same story, just illustrating that we're looking at the bottom 15% of observations for runoff pretty much across the state with few exceptions. And definitely the potential for some record low flows in some locations. I wanted to mention this. The 10th exceedance probability forecast is essentially our most optimistic outlook that we're forecasting. And if we look at those numbers, we're still looking at basically around average flow for much of the state and still below average flow for the Price, San Rafael, Dirty Devil, and Strawberry headwaters. So even in the best case scenario, I can't spin things more positive than that. I apologize. I'm going to skip forward on this one. I didn't spend any time on this morning. I wanted to just do a little refresher on our forecast charts. Each one of these rows on this graph is an individual forecast point, and you can see the volumes that are forecast for that forecast point with the numbers that are above kind of the rainbow drawing. In the middle of those values is the 50th exceedance probability, and it's nice to contextualize those numbers against that vertical gray line, which happens to be to the right of almost all those rows. But that's normal. This is in terms of percent of average. And so you can see, for example, for the Weber at Colville, which is the third one down, all the numbers indicating the thousands of acre feet that we're anticipating from April through July, and how that compares to normal, which is that gray line on the right side. So I'm going to bounce around the state, and I'm going to show these specific forecasts for all the different regions of the state, which I did not do this morning because I thought we'd spend a little bit more time on this section here. So starting with the Weber Ogden, the basin as a whole is projected to be, sorry, let me pause. These are based on 50th exceedance probability forecast, the numbers I'm going to be citing. So take it for what it is. 54% of average flow. What I'm showing on the bottom left here are the forecast evolution plots, and this one happens to be for the Weber River at Gateway. So just to highlight for each one of these slides a certain sort of thing that jumped out to me when I was looking at these distributions. Weber at Gateway, even the most optimistic forecast is expected to be below average this year. And you can see the range of values on the graph on the right side. Similar story for the Bear, 65% of average. Little Bear at Paradise shown by the forecast evolution plot on the bottom left. All values, again, below average there. You can see the individual forecast points. I'm going to be going pretty fast, but of course, these are all available on our webpage. Provo, Utah Lake, Jordan, 54% of average. Little Cottonwood Creek could get to average runoff if they hit the 10th exceedance probability forecast. Northeastern Uintas and the Tooele region, 54% average for Tooele, 74 for northeastern Uintas. Black Fork near Robertson is a little bit more optimistic than some of the other forecast points around the state, but still looking like very likely to be below normal. The Duchesne, 57% of average. Duchesne near Tabiona, you can see the big drop off due to the poor January snow accumulation in that one. Really massive decline in the expectations on that site. Price, San Rafael, 50% of average. Huntington Creek near Huntington is what's shown here. All values below average there. Jumping to southeastern Utah, we've got 42% average for the Dirty Devil, 45 average flow for the Escalante Paria, and 54% average for southeastern Utah. That includes some pretty big runoff numbers for the Green in Colorado. If we're just looking at Monticello and Moab, those numbers are definitely lower than 54%. South Creek near Monticello has significant uncertainties. You can see there's a pretty wide distribution there. Sand pitch severe is an area that I mentioned in terms of the reservoirs. 61% average runoff projected for the sand pitch, 48 for the upper severe. Severe at Gunnison, the 90th exceedance probability forecast, which would be kind of our least optimistic forecast, would actually hit a new record low for that site. And then finally, 53% average for the Beaver and 53 for southwestern Utah. Virgin River near Hurricane, not far from here, increasing certainty of below average runoff. Obviously, we'll refine these numbers on April 1st, but that's what we're looking at right now. And then we, of course, combine all these into our surface water supply indices. As I mentioned this morning, this is where we combine the overall forecast quantities to the existing reservoir supplies in each one of our basins. And then we contextualize those based on what we've seen in previous years, so we can generate these percentiles. Not surprisingly, we have the potential for exceptionally low water availability in a large number of our basins. Those are listed here. And again, these are based on 50th exceedance probability forecasts, so this is potentially optimistic. Okay. I talked about Great Salt Lake this morning. The 70th exceedance probability there is about 260,000 acre feet of inflow, looking at maybe a peak of around 4192.1. Obviously not where we want to be, and we'll see if we get much more water than that. We're hoping for the best on that. And then this just came out yesterday or the day before. These are the new inflow forecasts into Powell. The 70th exceedance probability forecast here is just a little under 2 million acre feet, which is not good news. So I apologize. I wish there was more that I could do to deliver good news other than just report the facts here, but I thought I'd leave us at least with a nice picture of Aspen and ask if there's any questions.
I don't think you need to apologize for anything. We appreciate so much you helping us understand the information. Are there any questions?
I just had one question.
Yeah,
So
William.
when you say the range of observations, is that the 30-year period, or does that go further than that?
It's for the, when we're talking about the SWASI, the surface water supply indices, or the,
Or, yeah.
or for the runoff forecast?
Yeah, runoff forecast.
We're talking about the full period of record.
The full period of record, not just the 30 years.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Jordan? Jordan, thank you so much for coming,
Brian?
being here.
I just have
Oh.
one snarky remark. So
Oh,
what's
please.
the good news?
The good news, soil moisture is great.
Great. I like
I'll leave with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, we'll move on to discussion of board projects. Our first project is the RE 469, Grantsville Irrigation Company. Board Member Tennert, this is your area. Do you have anything you would like to?
No,
Yes.
no, I appreciate that. Thank you. Ani will give us the update. There's nothing different here. I was going through this this morning actually, and it's from 2023 when we approved it. And I appreciate Ani taking the project over for Russell.
Yep, this was inherited from Russell. Let's see here. So Grantsville is not online yet, and doesn't look like they will be. They're not required to be online, but they are not online right now. So this is Grantsville Irrigation Company, and the proposed project is located in and around Grantsville City and Tooele County. The applicant is requesting funding from the board to replace 3 vaults for pressure-reducing valves with above-ground buildings, manifolds, isolation valves, telemetry controls and monitoring, and to refurbish the existing PRVs. The hydraulic operation systems will be replaced with electrical operation systems and telemetry to control and monitor them. The applicant has completed the necessary requirements to be able to commit funds. Staff recommends the board commit 85% of the project cost up to $1,496,000, and that this project be purchased at 1% interest over 30 years with annual payments of approximately $58,000. And that is staff's report.
Okay. Did we get any of the Grantsville people online? We don't.
They are not online.
They're not online. Okay. Are there any questions then pertaining to this discussion? Okay, this will be Juliet, in your area. Will you be making the motion? Okay, very good. Thank you, Ani. You can stay there
I'm
because the next
staying
one
here.
is RE 490.
We have
Clinton
Bryce
City.
Wilcox from JUB is here.
We do have some
And the mayor is also online.
Councilmember Hawks. This is your area. Do you have anything you'd like to say as we start this?
No, I don't on this one.
Okay. Then let's go ahead.
Okay. So the proposed project is located in Clinton and Sunset Cities in Davis County. The applicant is requesting financial assistance from the board to replace 12-inch and 20-inch drinking water pipelines with approximately 2 miles of new pipeline in conjunction with the UDOT project along 1800 North. The applicant has completed the necessary requirements to be able to commit funds. So the staff recommends the board commit 85% of the project cost up to $3,900,000 and that the bonded indebtedness be returned at 3.09% interest over 15 years with annual payments of approximately $356,000, including reserves. That is staff's report.
Okay. Is there anything the applicants would like to add to this?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'm Marie Doherty. I'm the mayor of Clinton. I wanted to express my appreciation to the board for your consideration of this project. It's stands to be a great investment in Clinton's future, and we've already been increasing our water utility rates to help for that bond repayment, and we're hoping to fulfill all of that obligation just perfectly. So we're very grateful for the consideration and the investment in Clinton's future.
You bet. And thank you for being here, Mayor. We appreciate that effort. And do we have any questions now from the board? Yes.
Is the road project, or is this schedule working out for everybody, or have they already started the road? And like, how's your timeline looking?
Yes, UDOT's underway on their project. It's a 3-year project. They're year 1 into it right now, replacing our lines. So our timing and our payments is working out with their system. They've worked out with us for quarterly payments to meet our water lines is being replaced with the UDOT project. And so they've scheduled quarterly payments for us. So it's working out well.
And wasn't there something about them paying for part of it, or
There
I
is
remember something in our meetings. I just can't.
Yeah. So the whole project is about on 1800 North is approximately a $10 million project. And so UDOT is replacing portions of it that are going under I-15 that are underneath an underpass. The rest of the project is Clinton's responsibility. So UDOT is replacing approximately $6 million. Clinton City's responsibility is about $4 million. The whole pipe length is a little over 2 miles of line as their main feed into the city. So now's the time. It's approximately 50-year-old ductile iron pipe that's in need of replacing. So we don't want to have a brand new roadway on top of our old line. So it gives us a good time to move it. We're putting it outside of the right of way so that we can get to it easier in the future.
Great, thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, Councilmember Hawks, you'll be making a motion on this? Very good. Thank you. And thank you for joining us. Moving on will be RE 503, Alberta Water Company. This project's in my area. Either Stayner is representatives. Do we have anybody online or present for this project?
So this is Bill Ford, the president. Sorry, I'm just going to real quickly. The only project that required someone to be in attendance is Wolf Creek, and they are both online. No one else was required because nothing has changed. However, we've got some good folks that maybe kind of, as long as Bill doesn't heckle anyone, I think we'll be in good shape. We've got a couple of people that want to be here. And Clinton City didn't need to be on either. David Williams, the Public Works Director, was also on for them.
Okay, thank you. So Bill, do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Bill Ford. President of Alberta Water Company in Alberta, Utah.
Great. Glad to have you here. And Ethan, if you want to go ahead and present.
Yeah, will do. Thank you. So we have Alberta Water Company. This project will be coming from the Revolving Construction Fund. Let's up closer. We visited this.
Switch mics up. That won't be helpful. It looks good on you.
Thanks. Thank you. All right. Thanks. Yeah, Marisa and I visited this in early January, I think it was. And Bill here and Wade and Merrill from their company were very gracious to sit down with us and go over the funding process and some of the requirements and everything, our usual process, and show us the pump house out there where well 3 is associated with this project. And so then this one was authorized just at the last board meeting at the end of January. And so now we're here for committal. And just a little bit about it. This is in Elberta, 10 miles west of Santa Quinn. They have 3 wells. Wells 1 and 2, which are shallower, that they had issues with high arsenic, so they blend it with well 3 to stay under the drinking water limit. And recently, a couple years ago, they started having drawdown issues and issues with sand, especially entering well 1, and only able to get a small amount through well 2. So they're coming before the board to seek funds to increase the pump system on well 3, the good deep well, and hopefully get that to go from 100 to 150 gallons per minute to kind of offset some of the loss from wells 1 and 2, and then also replace the pump on well 2 to hopefully keep that, I think, above 30, maybe up to 35 gallons per minute, but hopefully keep that, and then purchase a spare pump for emergency purposes for well 1 as kind of a backup plan if needed. And so that's kind of the reminder of what we authorized last time. They have completed all the requirements between Bill and the engineer. We were able to get that done, and so I'm grateful to them for helping get that. And cost sharing. This is $115,000, and so with the maximum allowed that we could fund through the revolving construction fund, 85%, we would be providing 98,000, and then the applicant would be responsible for the rest. And so the staff recommendation will be that the board commit 85% of the project cost up to $98,000, and that the project be purchased at 0% over 15 years with annual payments of approximately $6,500. And that's the report. Any questions?
Thank you, Ethan. Bill, do you want to add anything to that before we go to questions?
That's pretty good. He done a good job.
He did. He said the right word, right?
We're a pretty small outfit. It doesn't take much to explain what we do.
Small doesn't mean you're not important. You're important to us.
They're coming our way, but they haven't made it yet. So.
Okay. Any questions from the board on this project? Councilmember Van Horn has offered to make the motion on this for me, so we'll do that. We'll move on to the next one. Thank you for being here.
Thanks very much.
Okay, we're at RM 129, Weaver Box Elder Conservation District. Ani is a staff member on this. This is in Councilmember Hawk's area as well. We have some visitors representing the owners, do you want to introduce yourselves, please?
Marcus Keller with Cruise Municipal Advisors.
Jeff Humphrey with Weaver Box Elder Conservation.
Great. Glad to have you here. Thank you. Councilmember Hawks, you have anything you want to bring up before we start this?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just say broadly, this is a long-term effort of the state to install these secondary meters, which they say what you can't measure, you can't manage, and it's been a real critical thing. Davis and Weber counties have the largest secondary system in the world, so it's a big lift to get meters installed. So this is another an ongoing effort to use ARPA funding to get meters installed and in place. So I appreciate the good work on this and related projects. We'll talk about several of them. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Okay, Ani, if you would proceed, please.
Okay, so this project is located in Harrisville, Pleasant View, North Ogden, and Weaver County. And the applicant is requesting funding to purchase and install 7,229 additional secondary meters. And the applicant has completed the necessary requirements to commit funds. And so the staff recommends the board commit up to $7,737,000 as a loan, and that the bonded indebtedness will be returned at 1% interest over 15 years with annual payments of approximately $600,000, including reserves. That is staff's report.
Thank you. Would you like to add anything to the report?
Nothing from our side. We appreciate the very generous financing terms. As many of you know, rates have gone up. So this is the only way these districts are able to afford this type of or this size bonding indebtedness. So thank you to BWR for considering it.
Well, I think as was mentioned by Councilmember Hawks, these are very important projects and the state's deemed them very important. So we're glad you're here. Anything from you or?
Yeah, just to give you an idea, when I took over 2.5 years ago, our district, which we run 2 separate districts, we only had roughly about 500 connections metered in Weaver Box. Right now we're a little over 9,000, and this almost just shy of 8,000 will complete our Weaver Box, and we're hoping to have this done by July.
So just briefly, how have you seen, have they been beneficial? Have you seen usages go down where those meters are? And we always like a good report.
As far as the usage, it's probably too early to really give a correct answer. I think these meters, you're going to need multiple years of monitoring to actually be able to answer that. But what we've seen a benefit just this last year when we launched our portal with our educational side of it is not from the homeowners, but in our own lines, we were able to detect a couple leaks that we never would have known without those meters there. So we've seen that side of it.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, any questions then from the board on this issue? Seeing none, Councilmember Hawks, will you present on this one? Thank you. Thank you very much for being here. We'll move on to the next item. RM 130, South Ogden Conservation District. Ani, you're here again. Looks like we've had the people move in very quickly while I wasn't paying any attention to the Glad to have you here. This is Councilmember Hawks' area again. Anything you want to add before we start this one?
Yeah, just one more thing for context, and I appreciate that, Mr. Chair, but it's what the data suggests based on what we've seen, that there's nothing more significant you can do in the municipal conservation space than meters, and then importantly, sharing that information so that people know. There's something about that socialization where people can see how much they're using relative to what they used last year, and particularly what they use relative to their neighbors, that show it's the single most dramatic, I mean, order of magnitude more than, say, smart timers or things like that, to just meter it and let people know how much they're using, how much their neighbors are using. So this, again, very important ongoing effort to get everything measured and get that information to consumers so that they can make informed decisions.
Great, thank you so much. Ani, if you want to go ahead and present,
Okay.
please.
All right, so this proposed project is located in Ogden, South Ogden, and Washington Terrace in Weber County. The applicant is requesting funding to purchase and install 1,283 additional secondary meters. And as they are with the last project, the applicant has completed the necessary requirements to be able to commit funds. So the staff recommends the board commit up to $1,584,000 as a loan, and that the bonded indebtedness be returned at 1% interest over 15 years with annual payments of approximately $123,000, including reserves. That is staff's report.
Thank you. Would you like to add anything to that?
I'll just give a comment because I think it was mentioned a little earlier. I just wanted to echo, I can't remember which board member said it, but you all have some of the best staff we've worked with, particularly when it comes to the financing. They make it so easy and organized. And so we just wanted to give our appreciation, not only for the bonding terms, but for your entire team to help us get through that process.
I thought we told you to make it hard. No, no.
Oh, sorry.
No, I was joking. That is so true. And we're glad we can do that. It doesn't help if we can't get the money actually into the ground, so to speak, into these. So thank you. Any questions?
Mr. Chair, I got just one.
More
More
business. Councilmember Buxton.
Okay, very good. Just, just from a cost standpoint, is any of the cost passed on to the user, or are these strictly just absorbed by the district?
Yes and no.
Okay.
We did have to raise our rates a couple of times, but not really because of the meters, because our rates were too low to begin with. So following the state statute of, we had to raise our rates, but majority of the cost was absorbed by the districts.
So there's not like a connection charge or anything like that. It's just absorbed through the usage fee.
We do have our own individual connection charges on new development or existing connections that wanted a second connection and some of the others, but those weren't related to the meters.
Okay. And I guess the only thing I was intrigued by, and this is just me trying to analyze this a little bit, but the one that we presented prior to this one was about $2,600 per connection. This one's about 28. And not that that makes any difference with the whole proposal, but is that about average for the cost that you see in terms of installing these meters?
Yes.
Something in that range?
Yes, with the contractors, with buying the materials, the meters, you're anywhere from 2,800, actually almost 3,200 on some of them when you go into the larger meters. The reason why the two costs were different between the two districts is this is in the Ogden area where we do have a lot more obstructions that we have to deal with, some of the older pipes, and have to replace the whole service lateral down to the main connection, where in the Weber box, it was some of the newer areas.
Okay. I think that was just wanted to drill down on that a little bit, so that helps. Thanks.
Thank you. We had another question.
Yeah, Mr. Chair,
Councilmember
thank
Merkley.
you. Just a question, in this whole secondary water metering space, are we strictly educational, or have you moved over into the regulatory as people these are installed and now you're seeing what the usages are? To Tim's comments, have we gone into regulation now based on their usage?
Yes, to both of those. We started last year launching our portal, the water scope. All of our meters are read off of cellular. We're not off of towers. So our customers can have real-time data available if they sign up to our portal. And so the educational side is trying to get people to know this portal exists. We've gone through with sending letters, welcome kits, knocking on doors, door hangers, trying to get as many people we can signed up. We had a 4% signed up last year of the 16,000 we had installed. We just jumped up to 7% this week because of another round of letters. So those are helping on the educational. As far as the regulatory, we used last year with the ones that we had meters on and had a full year of data to show them. When they started getting up to their 50% of their allocation, we sent out a letter to kind of let them know and say, sign up for the portal. You can watch and monitor your own usage. Set it out at 75%, 90%, and 100%. And we used it as, hey, this is our first year monitoring it. If you can show us some reduction, we'll be good. But if we continue to see abuse, we're going to be forced to shut you off. And we did have to shut off a half a dozen last year. with a reconnection fee of last year was $200. We bumped that up to $500 to go with what the others were charging in the area as well for the following season.
Super. Thank you.
Oh, Councilmember Hawks.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just briefly, I just wanted to, a lot of times this really takes leadership. And I know you stepped into the role and noticed that there weren't making a lot of progress here. You made a lot of progress fast. I know it's never easy to raise rates, so I just appreciate your leadership, sort of grabbing the bull by the horns, Jeff, and making this happen. So thanks for that.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions then on Councilmember Hawks? You'll be doing the motion for that. Okay, very good. Thank you for being here. Unless you got more hidden in here. Okay. We do have, moving on, we do have a special item, RM067, Wolf Creek Irrigation Company. And do we have some individuals that are joining us online?
Yes. Yes, it's a pleasure to be with you. My name is D. Staples. I'm president of Wolf Creek Irrigation Company, and I'm with E.J. Harris, who is the Secretary Treasurer.
Very good. We're glad to have you with us. Thank you so much. This is in Councilmember Hawks' area as well. Do you have anything to add before we start discussion?
I'm sure it'll generally be covered, but this one's coming back with a little bit of an adjustment. It's for a completed project where the cost came in a little bit higher, and so it's just changing the amount of the, upping the amount that they're going to borrow and pay back. So, but it's a great project, again, in the same vein that we've been discussing.
Very good. And Ben, you're presenting. Would you go ahead and proceed?
Sure thing. This project is located a couple miles northwest of Eden, Weber County. They received ARPA and loan funds from the Board of Water Resources to install about 170 secondary water meters. They were able to use some of their loan funding to also install some ag meters, which were not eligible for ARPA funding. And they have completed the project in its entirety and submitted all their invoices. The final project cost came out to about $569,800, which is approximately $50,000 higher than originally expected. And they are hoping to acquire some additional loan funding from the board to cover those extra expenses. Staff recommends that the board commit an additional $42,330 and amend the purchase agreement to state that the board will provide 30.7% of the project cost, up to $174,930, and that the project be purchased at 1% interest over 15 years with annual payments of approximately $12,600. And that is staff support.
Very good. Thank you, Ben. Do you have any things to add to that, Dee?
Well, just a couple of things, if I may, please. It's been a pleasure to work with Ben. He's been a strong advocate for us. And just briefly, may I state that we're just finishing up a 25-year loan to the Board of Water Resources that helped us install our pressurized system. So may I say at the end of that project, thank you. We're now pressurized for 25 years and it's working well. And we thought we needed to move into the second phase of metering to conserve water in a very sensitive watershed. And that's in the Weber Basin watershed above Pineview Reservoir. And we've now completed with, once again, the resources of the Board of Water Resources, this metering is complete. This year, we will start reading meters for the first time. So we're deeply indebted for the service and help from the Board of Water Resources, not only to keep our system, to develop our system, but to continue to improve it. And we're very appreciative.
Thank you, Dee. Appreciate that. Are there any questions from the board on this project? Okay, seeing none, again, Councilmember Hawks, you'll be making the motion. You're busy today. We're glad that you're here. Let's just some information now. Thank you, Ben. On Joel, if you want to kind of share with us on status of funds and the, are we there?
There were 3 withdrawals.
Where did I miss those? Oh, right there at the bottom. I apologize. There are 3 withdrawals. We won't have a presentation on them. We have RE 493 Dry Gulch Irrigation Company withdrawal in Duchesne County, RM 051 Richards Irrigation Company withdrawal in Salt Lake County, RM 064 Paradise Irrigation Company withdrawal in Cache County. Does the board have any questions about these withdrawals? I think we're okay. Now I can move on to the next page. Now I can turn this over to Joel. Thank you.
And I will turn it over to Shalane for status of funds.
Thank you. Good afternoon. And before I jump in, I will mention those 3 withdrawals. They may read a little weird in the motion. The last one, RM 064, has had ARPA grant funds that were already withdrawn. We just didn't withdraw the loan funds at the same time. So the motion is to withdraw the 2 full projects from consideration and then the loan funds for RM 064. But it's all in one motion. I hope none of you mind. I tried to keep it simple for you. So, okay. And we will have a slide for that. The status of funds hasn't changed a whole lot. As you saw, these are all committal of funds, so they're just moving location in your packets. One of them is in the revolving fund. The Alberta project is in the revolving fund, but we still have almost $10 million available in the regular revolving construction fund, and that's been unobligated. You may notice if you look closely, don't know how many of you look real closely at the status of funds, but there have been a few new contracts entered into in the Dam Safety Grant Fund. As we have those FEMA grants available, we're able to do a little more work and at least get some engineering contracts started. Want to remind you all who may not remember or may not even be familiar that with dam safety projects, we do provide engineering funds up front. And then when there's an actual design that can provide a good cost estimate, we bring that project to you, roll those engineering costs into the total project cost to ask for your authorization and committal. Dam safety upgrade projects are a little different, where by statute you're required to fund them if they're required to do an upgrade. So there are a couple more of those there. And I will note, yes, Tom retired. Ben and Ethan are taking over and handling things, keeping things moving right along. So the C&D fund is where most of today's projects are happening. The committals are all associated with secondary meter projects except for Clinton. I take that back. Grantsville's not either. But same as authorized, so the amount available hasn't changed much. We have just under $60 million unobligated in the C&D fund still. And that's my report. Any questions? Thanks.
Thanks, Shalane. I'll give a quick legislative update. Since we were just talking about the dam safety funds, we finally this year did get an additional appropriation. The board or the legislature is going to allow the board to use an additional 6.2 million. And when we combine that with the existing 3.8 million, it gives us an annual amount of $10 million for dam safety. This funding does get transferred from the C&D fund into the revolving construction fund for use for dam safety, but this will be much needed because we've seen the cost of projects increase over the years, and our 3.8 million wasn't really keeping up anymore. And so this will help us stay better on top of the projects as they come up each year. So that was good news. A few bills that I'll mention this year. We had a few, I think the most interesting ones are the ones that didn't pass this year, but there were a few notable ones that did. House Bill 296 from Representative Wynn changed the water conservation plans to allow a water provider to add a commitment of water to the Great Salt Lake if they so desire. So that was just one that was attempted to pass last year and didn't, but this year it did. House Bill 313 was from Representative John Arthur, changed the requirements for landscaper certification, requiring them to have some training, 6 hours of training, and at least one of those 6 hours needs to be on water conservation landscaping principles, and one of those 6 hours needs to be fire risk management landscaping principles. And so both helpful ideas that I know were presented at the Utah Water Task Force and received good approval. The Colorado River Authority amendments was run by Representative Scott Chu. That's House Bill 473. Would change the authority a little bit, bringing them underneath the Department of Natural Resources, where right now they are under the governor's office. This would bring them to be part of the DNR family. We're all kind of excited about the idea of getting to work. I mean, we were already working closely with them, but I think it enhances it even further, having them be all part of the same department with us. It expands the board from 7 to 10 members. The commissioner himself now has an official voting board seat. The state engineer would be a non-voting member. The director of Department of Natural Resources would be a non-voting member. The division director, would be a voting member. And one nice change there is there was a time period of years where Candace in her role on the Colorado River Board was representing the southeast portion of the state. They now will get their own representative, which is a good idea to help for better representation. So, and then they did also specify who may be commissioner of the Colorado River, well, who may not be. And the director of the Department of Natural Resources may not be, nor the state engineer, nor the director of water resources can be the Colorado River commissioner. So that was a good bill, I think. The Senate Bill 46, Waterwise Landscaping Amendments, was from Senator Stratton. He defined functional turf, and it was an interesting bill. In some ways, we feel like it complicates the topic, because we all will understand that, yes, there's great places for grass to be used. We feel like it's more helpful to define a non-functional definition, to just say, hey, these are the few places where it doesn't make sense, like park strips, parking lot islands. And so we were more behind the coalition of wanting a definition for non-functional turf. His bill defines functional turf, which we think makes it a little more challenging to try to list all the places where it is good to put it. In the end, we'll see where this goes. This one for this year just applied to state properties. And so, but if there was an attempt to make it go statewide for all residential, I think we might have more of a discussion about that. Senate Bill 252 was from Senator Pitcher. She ran a bill to focus at state agencies and having them have efficient water systems, irrigation systems. So this would be any new facility after May 6th would have to go in with a distribution uniformity of 75% or greater on their irrigation system, which is difficult to achieve. It's a tall order for an irrigation system. And this Department of Facilities and Construction Management for the state is up to the task. They were co-presenters with her on the bill and said, yep, we will do this for new state properties. And also, if there's areas of grass that are going to go in on new state properties, that they would use a low water use turf as certified by Utah State. So that's a good bill, wanting the state to be the example in that area. And then, as I mentioned, several bills that didn't pass, a few notable ones. There were several water conservation bills that I was hopeful, because they were passing through committee and seemed to be getting good support from both Senate and the House, and then they didn't make it across the finish line. As we heard, there were over 1,000 pieces of legislation this year, and about half of them passed. So there were a lot of bills that did not pass, and some of them were a water loss study from Representative Owens, House Bill 154. Another bill that would have encouraged conservation tiered rates, House Bill 155 from Representative Owens. One that we were really excited about, House Bill 328, would have defined non-functional turf. This was from Representative Clint Okerlund, called Water Usage Modifications. There was great support from the water conservancy districts, so many positive commenters on this bill, and it made it through both committees and then just didn't get its final. It was substituted at the Senate, and it was Senator Stratton that made a substitute to change the definition from non-functional turf to functional turf, and basically changed the bill to how he wanted it. And I think at that point, there wasn't much of an appetite to pass it, because so we'll try again next year, see if we can come away with a non-functional turf definition that we think is just going to help our state take the right steps forward, of knowing that, yep, there's places where it makes sense, and then there's a few places we just don't want to use it. There was the 349 would have given the board authority to, well, here's the interesting thing, to do reservoir projects. The board already has that authority. We can receive applications if anybody wanted to build a new reservoir or to expand a reservoir. But originally, when the bill came out, it would have allowed the board to use the WIRA account, Water Infrastructure Restricted Account, which there's only a select list of 5 or 6 things that can use the WIRA, and this would have added dams and reservoirs. At a certain point in the session, that was substituted to take that ability out, but it did still task the board with considering reservoirs, potential reservoirs, and even reporting to the legislature each year on how many applications were received. In the end, that the bill didn't pass, but it made for some interesting discussion. There was the Airborne Chemical Amendments bill from Senator Winterton that we were involved in because of the distinction between the concerns with chemtrails and cloud seeding. And the bill made a clear distinction of saying, for those that believe in chemtrails, we're going to say that's illegal. Cloud seeding is different, and it is not. Second year in a row that the bill didn't pass. In some ways, you could say it's a win for science, but it was for those that tend to call our office being angry about our cloud seeding program, it would have given us a chance to say, hey, what you're worried about is now illegal, and that's not what we're doing. But just an interesting one. I'll probably leave it at that in the interest of time. If you have any questions on legislation that I might be able to help with. Not seeing any, we'll go on to a attorney's update from Sarah Schechter.
Good afternoon. It's good to be with all of you. I don't have a lot for the briefing right now. I do want to update you on the Great Salt Lake litigation, but I'd like to do that in a closed session so that I can advise you with attorney-client privilege. So Chair Davis can make that motion, and then that motion needs to be a roll call vote, and 2/3 of the members have to vote yay to go into closed session. And we can do that after all your other action items. I did want. Did you give me a recommended you can use, motion? I can do that during the break. You can also use the language from the agenda that says closed session as needed. And you can just say, I make a motion to close the session as needed to blah, blah, blah. If that makes sense. And we can talk about it during the break if you want. Joel, I apologize if I'm repeating what you already said during the legislative update. I think one more item of note that if I missed you saying it is important. The legislature appropriated $5 million for litigation on the Great Salt Lake and Colorado River. I think that's an important thing. The only problem for us is then we have 2 competing basins fighting for the same pot of money on litigation. So we'll see how that goes, but hopefully that won't be the last time. Obviously, our state is under a lot of pressure on both of those basins. And there were a lot of bills on judicial reform during this session. I'm sure you've been following a lot of them. One of the reasons that I want to talk to you in closed session is about a very particular bill, and we'll discuss that more later when we talk about Utah physicians versus Department of Natural Resources. As you may recall from our last meeting, Water Horse is completely resolved, so we don't have to talk about that one anymore. And I'm happy to answer any questions now or later. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That concludes my information to the board.
Thank you, Joel. One thing I did not ask, we will need a motion on the withdrawal. It's a single motion for all three withdrawals. Is there someone that would be willing to make that motion? Thank you, Councilmember Steed. So we're at a point where we can take a break. How long a break do you want? We'll just take, we'll go to 2:35, 2:45. Yeah, 15-minute break, and then we'll reconvene. Go into recess now. Do we have to have a motion on that? We do, don't we? Yes. We do need a motion.
I make a motion that we go to break.
I'll second if it needs a second.
We do need a second.
Okay.
We have motion. Councilmember Van Horn, second. Councilmember Tennant. All in favor?
Aye.
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 We're out of recess for Board of Water Resources, March 18th, 2026. We do have some that have joined us. I'll let Joel introduce.
For the Grantsville Irrigation Company, I believe online we have Elise Mondragon and Rhonda Peterson, as well as Bodie Pollock.
Okay, thank you. Welcome to the meeting. Our first item of business now is the approval of minutes. I hope everyone had a chance to look those over. Are there any corrections or edits to the minutes that we need to make? If not, I would take a motion for approval.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the minutes for January 29th, 2026 as presented.
We have a motion by Board Member Van Horn. Is there a second?
I'll second that. Spencer Jones.
Thank you, Board Member Jones, for the second. Is this a roll call? No. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. Okay, we'll proceed into board actions. I'll just mention that these were all reviewed just previous to this meeting. And first item is RE 469, Grantsville Irrigation Company. Are there any additional questions or discussion about the project?
Mr. Chair, I'm ready to make that motion if it's okay with you.
Thank you. Please proceed.
All right, thank you. I move that we commit 85% of the project cost for project RE 469 Grantsville Irrigation Company up to $1,496, and that the project must be purchased at, and that the project be purchased at 1% interest over 30 years with annual payments of approximately $58,000.
Thank you, Board Member Tennert. We have a motion. Is there a second? Board Member Steed, second. We'll have a roll call vote.
I don't think we need roll call.
We don't need roll call? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item. RE 490 Clinton City. Any additional questions or discussion about this project? Seeing none, I'd ask for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I would move that the board commit 85% of the project cost. This is for project RE 490 for Clinton City, up to $3,900,000, and that the bonded indebtedness be returned at a 3.09% interest over 15 years, with annual payments of approximately $356,000, including reserves.
Thank you, Board Member Hawks. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
It's Board Member Ibsen. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Mr. Chair, if I just may briefly, you only have to do a roll call vote if you get any no's. So if it's all yays, you can do voice vote.
Just
But if you get
move
no's,
on.
then do a roll call.
Even for closed session.
Not for closed session, but for other board action.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm always learning here. Thankfully, I have good teachers. Next item, RE 503, Alberta Water Company. Are there any additional questions or discussion on this project? Not, I seek a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we, for project RE 503 Alberta Water Company, that the board commit 85% of the project cost up to $98,000, and that the project be purchased at 0% interest over 15 years with annual payments of approximately $6,500.
Thank you, Councilmember Van Horn. Is there a second?
I can second that.
Thank you, Councilmember Buxton. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item we have on the agenda, RM 129, Weber Box Elder Conservation District. Any additional questions or discussion on this project? Seeing none, I would seek a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move for project RM 129 Weber Box Elder Conservation District. I move that the board commit up to $7,737,000 as a loan, that the bonded indebtedness be returned at a 1% interest rate over 15 years with annual payments of approximately $600,000, including reserves.
Thank you, Board Member Hawks. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
That's Board Member Steed. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, RM 130, South Ogden Conservation District. Are there any additional questions or discussion about this project? Seeing none, I seek a motion.
Mr. Chair, for project RM 130, I move that the board commit up to $1,584,000 as a loan, that the bonded indebtedness be returned at a 1% interest rate over 15 years with annual payments of approximately $123,000, including reserves.
Thank you, Board Member Hawks. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
And who was that? Oh, Board Member Steed, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Thank you. Next item we have on the agenda, RM 067, Wolf Creek Irrigation Company. Any additional questions or discussion about this project? Seeing none, is there a motion?
Yes, Mr.
Yes, Mr. Chair, for project RM 067, I recommend that the board commit an additional $42,330 and amend the purchase agreement to state the board will provide 30.7% of the project cost, up to $174,930, and that the project be purchased at 1% interest over 15 years with annual payments of approximately $12,600.
Thank you, Board Member Hawks. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Chairman, I'll make that motion. Spencer Jones.
Thank you, Board Member Jones. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, the next item we have are the withdrawals. There's 3 withdrawals. RE 493, Dry Gulch Irrigation Company. RM 051, Richards Irrigation Company. RM 064, Paradise Irrigation Company. Any additional questions or discussion about these projects? Seeing none, I would ask for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that the project be withdrawn from further consideration by the board.
List each one of them specifically.
Thank you.
And that would be for projects RE 493, RM 051, and RM 064.
And they said, yeah, never say the loan funds for this.
Thank you, Board Member Jones. Did that
Sorry,
cover it?
just 1 second.
They said specifically we needed to do the loan funds for RM 064. Is what they said in the thing.
Okay.
Because the first 2 were full. The full 2 are full projects. The others are loan. Just a loan fund.
Okay. So I'm going to restate my motion. Okay.
Just read it right up there.
Okay. That I move that RE 493 Dry Gulch Irrigation Company, RM 051 Richards Irrigation Company, and the loan funds for RM 064 Paradise Irrigation Company be withdrawn from further consideration by the board.
Thank you, Board Member Jones, for that amended motion. We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Board Member Merkley, thank you for the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, we'll turn the time over to our director, Joel Williams, for any report information.
Thank you. Marisa, while you're standing there, do you want to talk a little bit about our accessibility initiative?
Yes. And first, well, this is kind of a cultural thing, but kind of felt like the bishop said they had to do it over again at the front of the young man had to say it again at the front. Sorry about that. Yes. So I don't know if any of you noticed. If you didn't, that's fine. Our feelings won't be hurt. We made started with a little bit of change on our board reports. Got this table's a lot prettier down here. What is going on is there is an accessibility, meaning ADA accessibility, not that you can't find something, but that it needs to be able to be read to someone. And so we're going through a whole new editing of our templates for the board report. One thing we started with, the white on top of the blue didn't read well, so we've switched that to black a while ago. We've also got some privacy issues coming up. And back in the day, we used to need people's addresses, and sometimes it was their personal address because the president or the secretary, their address was also the company address. So we are going away from that because we don't mail stuff anymore. We email or do things digitally. So right now it still has their address. We're going to change that to email address. We're going to make it more of what we actually need to contact, and that's emails and phone numbers. So you won't be seeing that on here. So there's a lot that you won't necessarily see, but to be aware that we're working on it, I believe April 28th, 24th, sometime near the end of April, this is required to be ready. We may not have everything ready, but we're doing our due diligence. And that was part of wanting to bring it up in here, even though you may not visibly notice what's going on. A lot of things here, this had to be turned into a table that you can't see it, that it's a table, so it will read properly. The way this was set up with the contacts wasn't reading well. Things like that. And while we were in there, I said, Shalane, I'm really tired of having two different fonts. I don't know why we have two different fonts. So we changed the fonts. And then she said, I switched it to Calibri. She said, I'm not sure about Calibri. And she goes, oh, wait, I just need, so we upped the font size from 11 to 12. So just things like that. So there is some actual visual that helps those of us that can see it well enough. But there's also very much some things going on where we're making sure a PDF can be read by a reader and that it will make sense. We have two fantastic people back at our office. We have got Becky Holt and we've got Summer Dawn Shumway, and they are helping make sure that we are in compliance, and they're working with the whole office. So there's a lot of things. We're going to have to do the same thing with our application. And because of the changes we're making on the contacts here, we're going to change the application a little bit too. We're not going to ask for home addresses anymore because it's just not a necessary thing. I'm trying to think if there's anything else we've made a change. Anything else on there, Shalane? Just those. So there's a few other things. I don't know if status of funds is going to have to be looked at. Anything that is being posted online needs to be able to be read in an accessible way. On the agenda, we used to say project hashtag or whatever number symbol, and Word read it as project number. Adobe read it as project hashtag. And then I changed it to NO. Word read it as project number, NO period. Adobe read it as project no. So these little tiny things we're trying to figure out. Acronyms don't work very well all the time. CFS, we found out, is okay to be read, but you'll find when we have water rights, we even adjusted that table so it reads better in the headings. So just a bunch of little things like that. Oh, that's the other thing. Up here, this heading cannot be read. What happens, this heading, if we have it up here, it'll read it every time they turn the page. It'll say Board of Water Resources, Committal of Funds, and then go to the next page. So we're going to take this Committal of Funds or feasibility report, whatever it says out there, and put it down here So it can be read so that someone that needs to access it that way knows it's a feasibility report, knows it's a committal of funds report. So we're going to make that adjustment too. So there's some of these adjustments going on, and just be aware of that. If we write things out and you're like, why didn't they just put an acronym? It's because we're supposed to try to avoid acronyms, which I don't know what we're going to do with the Bureau of Reclamation Water Smart grant in a table, but we'll figure out something. So anyway, just wanted to let you be aware of that.
Thank you, Marisa.
And this is a historic day. I don't know if you know, Sarah took a picture. Not only do we have no one online, every one of you's here. So we're pretty excited about that. Thanks.
It's been documented. Just a few other updates. The state water plan, there will be a draft coming out next week for director level review of the Department of Natural Resources. There will be a draft coming out for the wider audience in May, and eventually it'll go out for public comment with the timeline of getting it published by the end of this year. A couple of conservation updates. The part of the Governor's Built Here initiative is for us to have 75% of our residents in the state live within an area that has water-wise ordinances so that they're eligible for the landscape incentive program, where we can pay them to put in a water-wise landscape. We are at 65% right now, and so we're always looking for additional cities to be eligible. Good news is West Point City recently adopted the qualifying ordinances, and they are now eligible. And then Blanding and Centerville are both considering ordinances. We're happy to go out and meet with anyone if they have questions about this. And the goal is to have that, I think, by 2029 to be up to 75%. And it'll be a good challenge for us. We are working on a series of webinars, and they call them the DIY, the do-it-yourself webinars, where we are learning about different ways that we can be more water efficient at home. They're being taught by water resources staff and experts that they coordinate with. The next one that will be coming up is about the Department of Agriculture and Food's pollinator program, which is a neat program where they will help kind of establish areas around communities to say, hey, these has pollinator friendly plants here. I noticed as I was walking around Utah Lake in the New Provo River Delta, there's an area where they have the signs up saying this is a pollinator program area. So it's a neat program to learn about. That will be happening on March 25th at noon. And information for anybody interested in registering for those can be found on our website. Some other conservation events, the transparent water billing application it opened on March 16th and will be open through May 15th. And those would be for water providers interested in help with their billing program and better communication with the water users, of explaining their water use to them. The Great Salt Lake Basin Integrated Plan is working. They'll be working on a draft by the end of this year to I think it was called the Integrated Water Plan in legislation. There's been some debate as to, is that the same thing as the Great Salt Lake Basin Integrated Plan? But they will be working to get a draft out, and then the real date for the Great Salt Lake Basin Integrated Plan will be the end of 2027, and working in partnership with Bureau of Reclamation on the basin-wide model. One other update, it would be from Eric Dixon, if he's been so patient, on the Unified Water Infrastructure Plan. And this will be my last update for this meeting.
Great to be here. I'll be pretty brief on this. The UWIP, Unified Water Infrastructure Plan, has been finalized, and it's on the division's website if you want to go peruse it. Just kind of some highlights. Also, the Utah Project Portal it's been open since November, and that's one where entities can come and put their projects in anytime, update them whenever they want. We'll be telling them by this date each year is when you need to have things in that will be put into the updated annual plans for the relevant agencies, which the Division of Water Resources is one of those relevant agencies. So that plan gets updated every year, but people can go in and add things whenever they need to. And our plan is for the next board meeting, we're going to be coming and spending 10 to 15 minutes going over how this impacts the board. Our goal and intent is to minimize, kind of have it be a nice, smooth transition that it doesn't really change a lot of what you guys do and how things are done. If you're familiar with the UWIP, the purpose is to get a compilation of all projects throughout the state, any water infrastructure projects, in looking into the next 20 years. So we can kind of have a feel for what the costs are, what anticipated funding requests are going to be, and then the process we kind of divide those, come in one door, and then we kind of divvy them out into the three water resources, drinking water and water quality. And then the hope and intent is kind of, then it kind of generally just it goes to you and you kind of do what the process has been doing. There might be some little tweaks as this is one we're learning as we go. It's brand new. This is the first time it's getting put in. So we will keep, again, next one in May, we'll have a few minutes to go over things. And by then we'll have a better feel of if and what the changes will be to you guys. Any questions?
I was at the Watershed Council breakfast meeting this morning, and we had a conversation about how the watershed councils could get projects onto that list, and in a project that would benefit our entire county. We weren't sure if it would be something that just one of our water districts would put in the project as a whole, or if the council, do you see what I'm saying? Like the project was bigger than any one.
Bigger than one entity. Like
Yeah.
Some entities are combining. I haven't had that question yet. So, and we can talk and think about, I would think, because it has to be entities that input projects. So they might need to pick somebody that's kind of leading it and heading it up, but we can talk about that and see if there's some different ideas, because then there needs to be an entity that has is based on what the records in the state have for who can be entities to open those projects.
Well, like I have access because I'm the operator for our airport.
Okay.
And so I have a couple projects on there, but then we also have Grand Water and Sewer, and then we also have Thompson, and so there, and Moab City. And so a project that would benefit the whole county. We just weren't sure if we should just have like a sponsoring entity and they put it on their list for the heck of it. And even though it's a bigger, more expensive thing, I don't know. It's just something for us to consider. Because we wanted, in the watershed conversation, we wanted to say, okay, well, this has been on the list for 5 years, 3 years, 10 years. We've known we've wanted this for a long time and that we need it. And, it's, bigger.
Okay. Yeah, let's talk about some ideas, because right now an entity can add lots of people to a project, and I'm not sure if it's per project or per the entity can have a bunch of different people having access. Maybe we need to look at talking to the consultant. Can a project be made to have different access so that several entities that are involved in that project might be able to access it and input it and stuff? So we can look at that. Thanks.
Mr. Chair, if I got another quick question. Eric, I listened to your presentation at the conference the other day. How well do you think this has been covered in the state? I mean, in other words, is it a comprehensive list we have, or is it 50%, or do you have any sense of how well?
Yeah,
throwing stuff.
We know
on
it's
there.
not everything,
Okay.
Because even till recently, we've had some of the bigger, because there's a lot of entities that are saying we're not coming for state funding, so do we even need to put the stuff in here? And like we talked about in the presentation, like we would like you to have it in there so we can kind of see the big picture of what the water demands are. Mm-hmm. And in case you ever do decide we do want to come for money, it'd be nice to have in there, but we know we won't get it. And then there's a lot of the smaller groups that unfortunately, probably with all the emailing and all the contacting, there's probably some smaller groups out there that have never even heard of it yet.
Haven't figured it out
in reality. So
that makes sense.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Please.
I'm curious on whether the bigger projects like Bell Pipeline, Bear River, if that's included in this, or is that just something else that we track?
I think Lake Powell Pipeline, I know that hasn't been put in there. Yeah, because those are under the wire, but
Right.
but like you're saying, the big picture, seeing them on there, even though they know they're not coming from funding, we probably need to look at seeing if those get put on there. That'd be a good idea to. If we want everything, let's put everything that we think might be a possibility in the future. Thanks. Ready? Thanks a lot.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Just a brief comment. I know Director Williams is wrapping up his report, but I wanted to say Centerville City, that's my home city, has long been a laggard in adopting these new water efficiency standards. I'm very thrilled that they're moving forward with that. But I wanted to give a specific shout out. There's one resident of Centerville, John Urey, who's just been a bulldog, just won't let the issue go. And I think it's largely to his credit that Centerville's getting close, I think, to ratifying those ordinances. Nice to see.
Thank you. Okay, so thank you, Joel, for the report and staff. We do have reason for a closed session for pending or reasonable imminent litigation per Utah Code 52.4.2051C. Let me give you just a little procedure thing. I'm going to list the people that we'd like to have in the meeting. I'll then call for a roll call vote. For that, we'll then excuse those that were not included on that. We will then have our closed session. We will come back into regular session once we are completed with that before we close the meeting. So that's kind of the way we're going to do it. We're looking to have Shalane DiBernardi, Sarah Schechter, Joel Williams, Mike Davis, Dana Van Horn, Juliet Tennert, William Merkley, Blaine Ipson, Tim Hawks, Dale Buxton, Brian Steed. Did I leave anybody out?
You missed Board Member Jones and Shannon Clow.
I did. Okay, Shannon Clow and Board Member Spencer Jones. I'm sorry, Spencer. Apparently you're translucent and I can't see you.
Long table.
You blend into Brian Steed at the end. We just kind of.
We're all the same, yeah.
And Chair Davis also Paul Gedge to continue
Paul
to
Gedge.
handle our AV needs.
Very good. So I'm looking now for a motion to go into closed session.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion. The motion I'm making is that I move that we go into a closed session to discuss pending litigation pursuant to Utah Code Section 52-4-2051C.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Councilmember Van Horn, second.
Roll call vote. Councilmember Van Horn.
Aye.
Councilmember Tennert.
Aye.
Board Member Merkley.
Aye.
Board Member Ipson.
Aye.
Board Member Jones.
Aye.
Board Member Hawks.
Aye.
Board Member Buxton.
Aye.
Board Member Steed.
Aye.
And does it matter that I called them council members instead of board members?
It does not.
Okay, I meant to say Board Member Van Horn and Board Member Tennert, but it was unanimous.
Okay, we're now into closed session. We're out of closed session, back into regular session, Board of Water Resources. We'll now, no action was taken during our closed session period. I will mention that. We'll now accept a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Before, I will be happy to make that motion, but maybe before I do, realizing that I stand between, this meeting and a really interesting tour that Ben is waiting for, and knowing that we have, I don't know, tens of thousands of people that we're streaming this meeting to, I just want to make sure that we go on the record and recognize that this is Director Williams' first official meeting as director. And I am just so thrilled that you applied for the position and accepted the position. And we didn't acknowledge it earlier, I think, because the transition has been just so seamless. So thank you. Thank you for taking on this role. We appreciate it. And with that, I will move that we adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.